We're going to talk about the final part on outsourcing, and we're going to talk about the complete picture, the pros, the cons, and when you make the call. This is the final video in the outsourcing series. I'm Hindol, and we have covered the strategic rationale and the operational execution component. But now we're going to synthesize both of those earlier videos and discuss what are the real pros and cons of outsourcing and how do you and when do you make the final call. I'm going to give you the complete picture, the good, the bad, and the genuinely complex trade-offs. Because after 25 years and probably a lot of outsourcing decisions that I've made, I've learned that the answer is almost never ever simple. Now there are pros, don't get me wrong, there are genuine pros. Let's start with where outsourcing genuinely creates value. Now pro number one, access to specialized expertise. Good vendors live and breathe their domain. They see patterns across dozens or hundreds of clients. They invest in training, they invest in certifications and technology that you would never justify for one function. When I outsourced treasury operations at a mid-sized company, the vendors team had former bank traders, specialized software, and real-time market analytics. They were managing foreign exchange exposure better than I could ever do. And I just left it to them to do it. They had seen every market condition. They had worked with every hedging scenario. That expertise, it had real value. The other pro is scalability and flexibility. Outsourcing converts step function costs to smooth curves. And what do I mean? Need to 3x your customer support for a product launch? With outsourcing, you scale up for 3 months and scale back down. Try doing that with employees. Good luck. At a SaaS company, we outsource positions of our customer onboarding, and during peak seasons, the vendor ramped up, and during slow periods, we paid for minimal capacity. Our cost curve matched our revenue curve, and that looked really, really nice. And there's a third part which is more near and close to my heart, and this is around capital efficiency. This is where the CFO in me gets excited. Outsourcing lets you run asset light. Instead of capital expenditure, infrastructure, equipment, or technology, you have operational expenses that flex with usage. In manufacturing, I outsourced the warehousing and the logistics, and I avoided $8 million in facility investments. I redeployed that capital into product development and market expansion. And the return on that redeployed capital was 3x what we would have earned optimizing warehouse operations in LA, in Oakland, in North Carolina. Pro number 4, focus on organizational bandwidth. Every function you operate internally consumes management attention. So outsourcing lets you focus that attention on what differentiates you. When I outsourced the HR administration, my head of HR shifted from processing benefits enrollment to designing talent strategies and building culture. Same headcount, but vastly more strategic impact. Then there's the final component around risk transfer. Good outsourcing, they transfer certain risks. Compliance risk in specialized areas, technology obsolescence risk, labor management risk in volatile markets. We have outsourced IT security operations to a specialist. They maintain the SOC 2 compliance, they manage the security certifications, and they absorb the risk of technology changes. Now, if a new threat emerged, it was their problem to solve, not necessarily ours. But then, with that said, all the pros, there are some genuine cons. And these are real too, and I've lived them. Con number 1, loss of control and responsiveness. You are adding layers between intention and execution. Your urgent changes require change orders. It requires approvals, renegotiations. The organizational agility that you had with internal team, it evaporates. With internal teams, you can pivot very quickly. Outsourcing is a little bit difficult. I once outsourced parts of a financial reporting program, and when we needed to add a new metric for board reporting, what would have taken our team 2 days took the vendor, 2 weeks maybe? Because it wasn't in the SOW. We missed the board meeting. There's another con, which is a hidden cost and complexity. I mentioned this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing. The vendor quote is never the total cost. Never. You add the vendor management, integration, transition, quality control, coordination overhead. I've seen 40% cost creep from vendor quote to total cost of ownership. So always factor that in. There's the con 3, there's quality and cultural misalignment. Vendor incentives are not perfectly aligned with yours. They optimize for their economics, which may or may not match your priorities. We outsource customer service at one company. The vendor, they optimized for handle time. get the customers off the phone quickly. We cared about customer satisfaction, upsell opportunities. Metrics look good, but the customer sentiment tanked and expansion revenue dropped. Classic misalignment. Con number 4, knowledge loss and strategic vulnerability. When you outsource, institutional knowledge walks out. If you ever need to bring those functions back in-house or you change vendors, the cost is crushing. I saw a company outsource its entire IT function, and 5 years later, they wanted to insource to better integrate with product development, but all the knowledge was gone. They essentially had to rebuild from scratch, from zero, and it took 18 months of chaos. And even worse, you become dependent. If the vendor has performance issues or raises price aggressively, what is your alternative? Switching costs are massive. There's another con, cultural and communication friction. Outsourced teams, especially offshore, they operate in what? Different time zones? They are, come from different cultures. They have different communication norms, different holidays. The friction is real and continuous. We outsourced software development to a talented offshore team. The code quality was fine, but the collaboration, my God, was painful. Misunderstandings, delays in feedback loops, difficulty in agile iteration. It added weeks to development cycle. So what is a decision framework then? How do you make the call? So let me share with you my decision framework. It might not apply for other people, but it certainly applied for me over time when I kind of like glean my experiences. I mapped the function on 2 different dimensions. On the horizontal axis, think of it like how differentiating is this capability? Is it a commodity or does it offer a competitive advantage? On the vertical axis, how interdependent is this function with others? Is it standalone or is it highly integrated? Functions that are commodity and standalone, strong outsourcing candidates. Functions that are differentiating and highly integrated, try to keep it internal. The tricky quadrants are commodity but integrated and differentiating but standalone. Now those require a little bit of judgment. Also look at the capability gap analysis. Can you realistically build a world-class capability internally? Be honest. If you're a $50 million company, you're not building a world-class security operations center. You don't have the scale or the expertise. So go ahead and outsource it. But if the capability is learnable and valuable, well, invest internally. Don't outsource away your future strategic optionality. Also consider the total cost of ownership model. I mean, that's what I do. Build a real TCO model. Include things like vendor fees, transition costs, vendor management overhead, integration and maintenance loads. What about, like I said, the hidden coordination